This is an international podcast transmission. Is anyone out there? If you're listening, you've reached the No Fixed Agenda podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to No Fixed Agenda, brought to you by Bubs Natural. You got your co-host here, Omar Hernandez, and standing in front of me is Big Sexy himself. Look at him. He's cute. Look at him. Look at him. Daz, don't get jealous.
Come on.
But
stop it.
He's blushing, you guys. I'm excited about today's episode, man. We got a very good friend of ours in the racing community, Crystal Salaz with HYROX.
Yeah, this is your wheelhouse, man.
This is it.
Don't screw this conversation up.
I don't think we did. I mean, I don't know. We might have got into it.
Screw it up, Omar. Don't screw it up.
I think having Crystal in and recording, we recorded a while back, but we got real strategic on releasing this episode because of our upcoming race in Anaheim on the 19th. Yeah. For you guys that are listening right now, I think you're going to want to tap into this episode because she's going to be talking a little bit about what's happening with HYROX in the months to come. She's going to be talking about what's going to be happening in Anaheim, some do's and don'ts, and the sport of HYROX that we all love.
Yeah, kind of like what I really loved about it was where it came from.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of learning how that all got started, what the process was when they got into it, and just really talking about some of the differences, but yet similarities to European and the international side of things and the U.S., right? And what they've seen works really well from a spectator standpoint over there and here, and what they've seen from a different athlete mentality type of thing. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they're going to get a lot of history of HYROX, the short history that it's had, right? Yeah. And not just where it started, but how fast it's grown in the industry and what that does and the markets they're trying to tap into. And the biggest thing that I loved about it, that she was, we got into topics of movement standards and throwing up some strategic things that I think people are going to have a lot of fun and laugh about. But really how high on the priority is for HYROX is their movement standards. Yeah. Which was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it's fun as a HYROX athlete and as a HYROX coach. It was just really fun to talk about the upcoming Anaheim event. Right. And we did get into some specifics with Anaheim, and what I think it's important if you are a listener and are just getting into your first HYROX, right? Your Anaheim is coming up. You're going to be doing the first time. We talk about what you should expect, the energy, the atmosphere, what you should be doing when you get into the convention center itself, and what you should expect, because it is overkill. Went to the senses.
Yes, absolutely.
As soon as you walk out of that registration line and into the actual event area, it is just an it's sensory overload is what I'm trying to say. And it's unbelievable.
The energy is so high. And I love that we get into that topic of why the energy is so high and what makes HYROX so special to the fitness community and what it's done for the fitness communities and what I think it's going to continue to do for the fitness community. I think that's going to be huge. It's an exciting episode, you guys. Again, if you're thinking about doing HYROX, or if you're currently doing HYROX, or you've signed up for your first race, this is the episode for you. Let's get into it, man.
Let's do it. The No Fixed Agenda podcast is brought to you by Bubs Naturals. Their mission is simple: live better, longer. Bubs helps fuel people to reach their maximum human potential through supplements sourced from nature's highest quality ingredients, all while giving 10% of profits back to charity. That's right, people. 10% back to charity. Learn more about their NSF for Sport certified collagen peptides and electrolyte drink mix at bubsnaturals.com. The cold one in the mini fridge.
What? There's Celsius?
Yeah. I have cold ones in the gym, bro. I'm like,
I'm drinking for the taste, which is a problem.
Well, you want? I can run over to the gym and get some cold ones if you want.
We've heard a few of those. Amazing. Don't have your Celsius in the video. Just kidding.
You can all you want.
Okay. All right, cool.
I don't care.
All right.
Celsius is my sponsor, so.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So
we'll keep it that way.
We can talk. Yeah. We can talk Celsius all we want.
My Red Bull needs to chill. Okay.
No Red Bull. Yeah.
The sponsors, man, are like legit. If I'm not wearing Puma, if I'm not wearing Puma on this stuff, they call me out. Yeah, they're like watching. Because we now have an incredible relationship with Puma. So I understand. It's like it's all their stuff. So we want to make sure. So it's the way that like race companies work, where you have like contracts with your partners.
Right.
It's a certain length of a contract, and that's all it is.
So I'm interested. I'm curious from the Puma side of things, because Puma's not really been known as like this endurance sport type of sponsor. So what was the relationship going into that? Do you know any of that side of things? I'm quite curious. When I saw Puma come in as a sponsor, I was like this is interesting.
Yeah, I've never worn Puma in a race, right?
Yeah. So what are they looking for as far as the HYROX brand? Are they looking to get more into like events hybrid type of events?
Functional fitness.
Absolutely. They've been a huge partner in the UK. So maybe not necessarily in the US. And we did have them as a partner at one point. We had them and a couple of their merchandise partners at one point for HYROX when they were in Pasadena. I remember like Puma was there.
Yeah.
And then it switched after that. But they've been a huge partner for the UK for a long time. Really? The thing is that now in the US, because the US hub of Puma is different from the UK, what they're trying to break into now is that hybrid athlete. Like they're coming out with specific, training clothes and shoes for HYROX specifically, which is pretty cool.
I do remember Puma when I did my first HYROX in Pasadena.
Yeah.
You guys haven't had another one in Pasadena for a while,
no,
right?
It was such a small venue.
Dude, it was such a small venue, but it was a chill venue, dude. I remember that. I did my first HYROX with Bliss.
Solid.
Yeah. I loved the venue. It was pretty chill. It was pretty well laid out, but it is a very small venue.
I would have thought Puma is a pickleball sponsor first.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I think of. Sorry, like Puma.
Running or pickleball? Yeah.
Pickleball, but pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the world right now.
Yes.
And
it's insane.
I would have thought Puma is a pickleball sponsor type of thing. That's what, because I think of it's more of a tennis style. And so that's that when Puma came out, I was like, this is cool. I'm glad that they are trying to rebrand their awareness to the new hybrid style of
I don't know when you remember Puma coming out, but you and I are the same age. Puma back in the day, bro, was like a stylish shoe, but it was mainly just tennis, right? So you wore Pumas and then you wore Adidas, and that was like the thing. But that's my thing of Puma. Like I don't remember Puma being a performance thing.
No,
I remember it being a performance thing because I was I have been into Formula One for a very long time.
Yes,
and so I love racing, and so they have high performance like race shoes where you can heel toe really well. So I always remembered Puma as like a race shoe for drivers, but so it's
I'm thinking like Run DMC, my Adidas, and then we were rocking Pumas too because we couldn't afford Adidas. All I'm saying. All right.
Yeah.
Wait.
Throwing away you're dating yourself.
Yeah, 100%, bro. Like,
fucking old man over here.
I'm not ashamed, bro.
Oh man,
I'm old. Leave me alone.
So we are talking HYROX today, and I would love to, for anybody who doesn't know what HYROX is, I'd love for you to give a breakdown of that and where it, because it's a German deal, right? So it started in Germany. So I'd like to.
Deal.
It's a German deal.
It's a German deal.
It's a German deal. So that's what I always tell my wife. She's German. It's a German deal. So I want to hear the backstory of it, but I also, what relationship do you have with HYROX? What do you do with the brand?
What's your role?
Sure. So I'll talk a little bit about HYROX first, and then I'll tell you who I am. So HYROX is a global fitness race created for everybody. So the two gentlemen in Germany that decided to put HYROX together, that's Christian and Mo, they wanted to create something for that 80% of people that were not doing competitive sports. They both come from a competitive sport background. They're both endurance runners, and they wanted to create something that would support just your everyday athlete. And that's why HYROX was born. And they went back and forth and for a long time, actually, just going over what those exercises or what those stations were going to look like, how much running was going to be involved, what was something that was challenging but manageable. Where's that fine line? Where's that fine balance? And so they created this. And as you can see, it's just completely skyrocketed.
Yeah.
They came out of left field.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know what HYROX was. And then I was like, this sounds like another thing. Let's see how long they're going to last. And all of a sudden, it just it's like contagious.
I think it hit the market at the right time. With as long as Spartan has been around and obstacle course racing has been around, right? There is that zone of, hey, it becomes the same repetitive thing over and over again, especially since it's been going on for 20 years?
Correct.
It has been that long. Wow.
Yeah, roughly. And so I think the HYROX as a brand and the style of sport, like it just something needed to be happening at that point. I think it just came in at the right time where now, like you said, it just blew up.
Yeah, I mean, because HYROX has been around for how long?
Since 2017.
And here we are, and they're huge.
Yeah.
They're global.
Yeah. What they wanted was something that hit all of the functional movement patterns, right? Yeah. So you have your hinge, you have your squats, you have your push, you have your pull, right? Yeah. You have your endurance aspect to it.
Yeah.
And there's a low barrier of entry. So now you have a race that anybody can do, anybody can finish because there's no time cap, right? And it's indoors. So like the elements are not an issue most of the time. We'll see how New York goes.
Depending on the HVAC in the venue, okay?
Miami was an experience for sure. We had the signature ones, but for the most part, it's measurable, it's repeatable, and people can actually see improvement with every race, even though maybe the layout's slightly different.
Yeah.
Right.
They can see tangible growth in their fitness, and that's such a cool thing. And I think my favorite part about HYROX is just, yes, there has been exponential growth over the last couple of years where things are selling out immediately, which is so cool. But think about like how many of those people are your everyday athletes. You see our Elite 15 quite often, like through social and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of hype for them, like across various media sets. However, they're only like maybe 2 or 3% of the people that actually compete or be at these events, right? There's so many of these people that don't go in to compete, they go in to complete. And it's so beautiful to see when something like London has 12,000 participants. Man. That's a huge amount of the population that decided that this is something I can actually do.
And I want to touch on that just briefly because HYROX and what it's meant to my community is just that. And so I created this community of people, athletes, and I'll call them athletes because they won't refer to themselves as athletes. But when they do a HYROX, they all of a sudden now refer to themselves as an athlete. And my community is a community of athletes where I really wanted to get people that were coming off the couch to work out with a quote unquote elite athlete and have that welcoming, like encouraging environment. And there's other race companies out there that say they do what you're suggesting, right? It's the Elite 15. But for HYROX, yes, you guys are very well structured when you guys put things together. And yes, the age group separation is amazing, right? But it's also very cool that you can eventually take somebody that's an open athlete and have them race against some of these Elite 15s. Yes. And it's pretty cool to watch. But more importantly, the vibe at HYROX for me is so contagious because it talks about this one. It doesn't talk. It shows this thing where you guys are working out side by side and you have somebody that's just completing it, like you said. But then the encouragement for the elite is almost not as big as the encouragement for the person who's coming off the couch, right? And so it's like, it's very powerful. You guys have the winning formula, in my opinion, of how to get communities put together and keep them together and just celebrate fitness.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like HYROX is every time, is a celebration of everyone's fitness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a big statement when you talk about community. This is one of the first like races or events that I've seen where there's so much spectator coverage. Like you can get everywhere on that course.
100%.
And that's a big part of it. Like that's something that they strive for constantly with building out the race course is like how much area or how much of the space can be spectator space so that they can see their athletes.
We saw that when we went to Dallas and we walked in, we did Dallas, Fort Worth, and there was bleachers.
Yeah,
that was cool, dude.
That was a huge.
That was huge. I'm like, I see what HYROX is doing. This is cool.
I mean, you got to look at as you talk about the spectator, like you want, as a spectator, you're going in, you paid to go in as a spectator to help cover some of the costs, but as doing so, you want to make sure you see
everything,
your athlete and everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's corners of the course you can't really get to and see fully. So adding the stadium or the stands in there definitely made a huge impact on how visually it's perceived by the spectator, which is awesome.
Yeah. And about 50% of my people that I guess the third HYROX that we took a team to, 50% of them were spectators.
Amazing.
They came to see family members do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can actually do this. Like, it was like a thing, right? They're like, you think of HYROX, man, I got to run 8 1,000 meter runs. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And they go out and do it. And they're like, holy smokes, I can actually do this. And this is cool. I feel like a superhero. Like, for me, I think one of the most amazing things that how you guys do the finish line. Like, for me, that's huge.
Oh, yeah.
like your name's on a Jumbotron, you're walking across, your picture's being taken, and you're like running onto a stage.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. So let's rewind a little bit because I've got more questions on how it got started.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to get too far away from that because it's very interesting. Being a race director and an event producer, seeing something like sprout up from nothing when you get to a convention center in this regard. So when the two owners or two founders started this, like, what was their mentality as far as how to select, as you said, the push, the pull, the posterior chain, like how, and then how much of it is running aspect. So do you know what their process was as far as, okay, we need to add in 1,000 meters every time in between each movement. Like how do they get to that point? Is there an understanding in your how that goes?
I think what they were really looking for is the overall distance. What's the overall distance we want somebody to cover, but mostly what's an overall distance that's not entirely scary to somebody, right? So like 10Ks are still scary to people. Yeah. It's 5 and change with 1,000 meters in between. Somebody like, if you think about just fitness in general, or just cardiovascular fitness, those 5Ks to 10Ks, like that's where you're getting a lot of the benefit. So I think they wanted something that was tangible and doable for everybody, but still a challenging distance. And then they just basically broke that up in between exercises pretty much.
What I like is it's 1,000 meters, right? If you were to say 1,600 and a mile in between.
Yeah, you lost me.
But that's very, it's a very true statement as far as what's attainable for the majority of people. Like 1,000 meters. Okay. That's only 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah.
Right. Less than 3/4 of a mile.
Less than 3/4 of a mile.
It's friendly. Yeah.
So it's doable, but what was their testing process as far as, okay, this exercise works, this doesn't work. And then the order of how everything happens, That's
a good question. I honestly don't know. I do know that they were looking at exercises that most gyms would have equipment for. Most people can train for without equipment. Yeah, so even without a sled, you can train on an assault bike. It sucks, but it's not my favorite, but you can still get the stimulus. Yeah. So the fact that the moves are, like I said, low barrier of entry. Yeah. They are modifiable and adjustable, and you can create the stimulus or the training that you need to complete a HYROX without the equipment. Right. So like there's some races where it's very specific. You have to have those obstacles. You have to have specific things to really get used to them and get comfortable.
Yeah. I think we say that in Spartan gyms, right? They got to have a rig of some sort, right? And so I don't think you have to have a rig to do HYROX. It's just understanding, you're right. You can pick other modalities to pick on or to choose that mimic the same stimulus, right? Using an assault bike for a sled, people are like, screw you. But for the most part.
For the most part,
absolutely.
You can train for HYROX without actually having all the equipment you necessarily will have at a race. And that's powerful. That brings so much opportunity to gyms and personal trainers and people that want to train for it, but maybe don't have the equipment. They see as still an opportunity to still compete.
I think that's why I like HYROX over the obstacle course racing is if you were at LA Fitness, you can do almost every single one of those movements if they've got some capability for it. If you can't do that at LA Fitness, like, they don't have a rig, so I can't practice.
Hanging. I can't go from ring to ring.
100%. So that's how many races happened overseas first before it came over to America. Was it primarily just the European circuit of events before it even considered coming over to here to the U.S.? Because
Yes.
U.S. it's only been over here for 4 years.
Since 2019.
Yeah. So almost 5 years.
Yeah. So they spent 2 years in the UK kind of building up the brand and, doing races out there. And then they came to the US and then COVID hit. So that was super fun. But yeah, the very first race that I remember with trying out HYROX was Pasadena. That was the first one I did.
Yeah.
And I think there was close to like maybe 500 athletes. Small. It's a small venue, so it felt busy. Like it felt really packed.
I remember it was super. I was thinking 500 people, man, and you've done like back in the day, Epic and yeah, you know what I mean? Like those kind of venues. I was like, oh, this is 500 people. Like not a big deal, right? But when you get there, you're like, the venue flowed so well. And it was such a small venue, but you felt like you were one of 1,000, right? Or 5,000. Mm-hmm. It wasn't 500. So it's cool to watch. Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. I loved it. I loved Pasadena.
So what is because new events are added every year or every quarter or whatever. Is it primarily, do you guys still feel it's primarily a European international sport versus America just takes over everything? Let's just be honest. I feel like America tries to make every sport ours.
Yeah. HYROX started in the U.S., right?
No, I know. Exactly. I know.
It's one of those things. We're way behind in soccer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or for our European people, football, we're very far behind in that. But I always feel like America tries to make every sport ours.
Yeah, 100%. You'll see it through comms and stuff like that, where, the races are selling out within days. Like Birmingham was sold out in hours.
Wow.
Yeah, we were just talking about Ireland.
London is a 3-day event. It sells out. They actually had to cap. I don't remember exactly what location it was, but they sold out of spectator tickets. Like they could not bring more people into the building.
That's crazy.
They hit capacity. It's insane. And which is so cool to see, but it shows that I think there's a big reason too, is because CrossFit is not as big in the UK as it is out here. They also don't have as many options. If you look at the race calendars, we're back up to having 2 or 3 races a weekend and having to pick and choose what we're going to do, where that's not necessarily a thing in the UK. It's HYROX. HYROX filled a very large gap in the UK for them.
And you bring up CrossFit. And so I have a lot of crossover athletes that train at CrossFit facilities, right? I did one of the CrossFit workouts at a CrossFit gym down the street. And he was talking to me when the owner was like, hey, dude, I got to come over and do HYROX at your space because I hear you're the guy for HYROX in the area. And
nice, you're the guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy.
Omar's just giving himself a plug.
Yeah, I'm giving myself a plug.
Omar's the guy.
I'm the guy.
Omar's the guy in San Diego.
Yeah.
If you need to train
you want to train for HYROX?
Omar is at O-Mode Training House.
Yes, thank you. That was a good plug. Appreciate you. But
I'm there for you, man.
So he comes in and he's, dude, we were talking about the CrossFit, the Open games, the Open.
Yeah.
And how many of his athletes are actually going to qualify for quarterfinals and then so on and so forth. And so I said, that's why I love HYROX, is because there's none of that. And so he has 2 athletes at his entire community that qualified for the quarterfinals. Mm-hmm. I think that's the winning formula that HYROX will be able to come back and go, you don't need to qualify. You just as long as you go and finish and you get started, you're going to just continue to get better. I think that's the gap that HYROX filled in a lot of communities. I don't know what that looks like in the UK.
Yeah.
But we know how big CrossFit is in the US.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see a transition of CrossFit athletes leaving their boxes to come and train either at a 24-hour fitness or at a gym like mine, other gyms, right?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't want to do CrossFit anymore because I think it's so far. But I know if I work really hard at doing these 8 zones and on my running, I actually can do very well at HYROX.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I'm glad you brought up, or I'm glad we all brought up the CrossFit. I think I did actually. But I'm glad we brought this up because I'd love to touch on that a little bit. One thing that I've seen most often with HYROX is just as you explained it, like it's now complementing these other types of training. Mm-hmm. So with CrossFit, what I'm seeing is that the hybrid training or HYROX training inside these CrossFit gyms are filling that gap that they're missing. And that's one of my favorite things to talk to CrossFit gyms about is like, hey, like this is going to support what you already do with your athletes for CrossFit.
Yeah.
Same thing with DECA. I'm totally going to throw it out here. A lot of people are like, oh, you're in competition with DECA. And I'm like, no, we're not.
We're not. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I 1,000% agree with that.
2 different entities.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is that one feeds into the other.
Right.
So as people get more comfortable with their fitness and start to believe that they're able to do more, HYROX is the next step for them.
And I will say that wholeheartedly that DECA is nowhere compared from a stimulus perspective. Even like you're more so doing a lot of more anaerobic work in a DECA where you're just like, how fast can I get through it and die through it? And then you go through a HYROX, it's all about pacing. Yes, you know what I mean? So it's a different thing. And I've had DECA athletes come through and they're like, I've done a DECA fit. I know I can get through HYROX. And I'm like, good luck. Go through. You can totally get through it.
Yeah.
You have to train a little bit different. So it's apples and oranges 100%. And it's like, it's funny. I'm watching HYROX athletes go now into DECA and they're like, that was easy.
Yeah.
Nothing against DECA. Right?
No, DECA's wonderful.
That was easy. And now it's like a C race for them, right? Or a B race for them. And not, yet again, not knocking DECA whatsoever. I'm saying
no shade at DECA.
No shade. No whatsoever. Because I die every time I do a DECA strong.
It's
like
a different
the worst
stimulus.
12 minutes of my life, right?
Yeah.
But it's totally different, right? I go full send when I'm doing a DECA.
Yes.
And I'm pacing doing a HYROX. So apples and oranges.
So I'm interested in the numbers perspective. So you're selling out events within hours, like you said.
In the UK, right? Is that
in the UK? But
First official U.S. event that we sold out with is New York in January or June 1st.
you continue to add events internationally and nationally here. And from a numbers perspective, is that mainly because of you're seeing races start to sell out in that perspective, or you're trying to get more of a reach? Like one of the things that I guess I worry about as a race producer or event producer is how much are you saturating your own market? That's a huge thing for us. We saw it in the race industry with the rock and roll events when they went from 10 events to 25 events nationally and internationally, and they just collapsed. They imploded.
That's the same thing I see with DECA as well, right?
Well,
you
it
pretty
is.
much get a DECA every weekend.
No, 100. Yeah, exactly. Right. So I guess that's one of the things. Like, is from a management perspective and an owner perspective, is that something you guys have always considered? Is what is the line of how much growth you want to do and how much growth you need to do, right, in these markets, and whether that's here in the U.S. or over in Europe? Are those always some of the things that you guys have to look out for? Because
absolutely,
it's got to be in the back of the mind of, if we add 2 more events here in this small region, is it gonna eat the other events? Right. So I'm always curious about that, because it is a fine line you have to walk when you're
you don't want to water it down either, though, right?
No, again, you don't want to saturate your own market of events, and
then the other, to add to that, how frequently are you seeing UK events being sold out rapidly with, like you said, 3 days? And how frequently you say that's only happened one time in the US?
Yeah, because we're still a new market, right? I don't think we're in like a baby market anymore. No. Like we've grown, but I'll touch on that point actually. So when we look at growth, or when we look at expanding into other areas, they're very particular about where they expand. When it's important for us to be in a major city, for one, and they're trying to expand into more countries. So that's more of the focus, I believe, is to actually expand it into additional countries, like we saw for Canada. Toronto launched for October.
Mexico City.
Mexico City.
I'm going to,
exactly.
Mi gente, let's go.
I was trying. I don't speak Spanish, so I was not a part of the U.S. team that was going. So dang it. Yeah. All right. I was like, really should have paid attention on that one. But so they're very strategic on when they launch new events and new locations, because they don't want to do that. They don't want to oversaturate an area. Most of the time, I'm not going to say that this is a standard. However, let's take New York, for example. New York sold out a full day. Now we're not going to have 2 events there. We're going to have a 2-day event, right? So now we're still expanding and creating opportunity for people to sign up. However, we're not taking away from the market or trying to oversaturate it. Because again, well, going back to London. London is a 3-day event. When did that happen? Because they had a 1-day event that sold out, and they moved it to 2, and then they moved it to 3. Yeah. So at this point, like, they haven't found a reason to really oversaturate London, because they know that they've expanded enough to where there's almost a sense of urgency. Like, people now are like, okay, I've got to sign up immediately because I'm not going to get a chance to. You want
that. What does that do for the venue in itself, though? I've been a part of some of the 2 or 3 day events, right? And so I think one of the beautiful thing about HYROX is that you literally have all the, 4,000 or 5,000 people come in one day, and you're waiting for your group to get on a podium potentially or to finish, right? And now got to go back 3 days over, right? And have you guys seen any downside to the 3-day events or the 2-day events?
No, I'm actually really excited for when we get to 2-day events in the US, because then they can split the events, right? You can have like solos on one day, doubles on another. And now you can have people run 2 days in a row instead of just one. Or sometimes it's I can't do Go Ruck because I'm doing teams and they're back to back and I'm not going to make it, right?
Got it.
Now you actually have the opportunity that if you want to run multiple times, it doesn't have to be in the same day. You can have a little bit of a rest. And then the days technically, depending on how they sell out, will not be as long, right?
Yeah.
Now I think in New York, when we had a 2-day event, it was at the smaller venue in New Jersey.
Got it.
And we ended with men's pro, and that was cool.
Right.
We have this gentleman that was finishing out his race. He was the very last athlete. I'm cheering him on. I'm following him around the course because, one of my jobs is I'm a race director. We're there to help the last athletes finish it out. And it's a very powerful moment to really cheer on somebody, especially in the pro division when you're like, I'm going out to be competitive. I'm really heavy weights and let's do it. And then the day ends and you're the last athlete to finish the day. You want that support.
When I went pro, dude, that was my fear. I do not want to be the last person.
So there's once we get through some explanation, there's a couple things that I'm going to bring up that I would love to see, and this is based on this conversation.
Is this a strategy conversation?
Yes,
dude?
the strategy aspect is coming. And, Omar hears this from me all the time. I'm a huge strategy guy. So
coaching this guy is rough, yo.
When we get to that point, we get past all the explanation. I have some strategy bullet points that I want to bring across.
Okay, fair.
Sorry, listeners. You get a little insight to my day-to-day life.
So, but that's cool though. Like with those, go back to the multi-day events. Again, you're not saturating your market. You're creating other opportunity in those markets, which is nice. Mm-hmm. Saturating the market would be going from New York City to New Jersey. Great that the opportunity is there to do that. And I agree with you. I don't think that's the standard because you're not gonna get that in Houston, I don't think, or Dallas.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that's really gonna. If it does, it's gonna take a long time. Right? New York City funnels everybody here in the US. It funnels people from London. It funnels people from Europe, all over the place. So it makes sense. And London's the same way, that it becomes a 3-day event with it. And actually London probably has to be one of the coolest spots to do it.
Oh my God.
I've never been to that convention center. But
I haven't been, but the venue is phenomenal.
The photos and have you ever seen any of that stuff? The photos and the photos and the video I've seen of that venue.
Yeah.
Epic.
It's a phenomenal venue.
Yeah. Jordan was there a couple of years ago.
Got it. Yeah.
And he showed it, and just, you can see from up top, like second tier.
Yeah, they call it the Thunderdome.
Oh, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah, they have 2 to 3 tier, like standing bleachers, basically, where there's just like levels that you can see stuff. It's crazy.
The spectator aspect of it is
crazy. Huge. Yeah.
I would love to see a lot of that. I think I ask people now, have you ever heard of HYROX? I get 2 no's for everyone. And I think, what is HYROX doing to make it, other than to increase visibility, doing stuff like this where you're getting on local podcasts and stuff like that? What is HYROX doing to make it more known? Are they tapping into more of the CrossFit arena? Because now everybody, my gym is a functional fitness gym. Mm-hmm. I'm a HYROX affiliate. But when people walk into my gym, they go, are you CrossFit? They're not, even though I got the HYROX flag and the whole thing. What is HYROX doing to grow the brand in the United States to make it synonymous, like functional fitness or hybrid training, as walking into a gym going, oh, you're a HYROX gym?
Yeah, I think there's some cool stuff coming forward with like our affiliate program and stuff. I will say that like a lot of people I talk to, they immediately think CrossFit when I mention HYROX, when they don't know what HYROX is. So it's CrossFit. Yeah. And like two very different things. But a lot of that outreach comes from our US team, right? So our US team has like regional managers in each major region. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of outreach to all the local gyms. And that includes CrossFit, F45, OTF across the board. Like we're trying to get people to understand what HYROX is, just one at a time. But the cool thing now that's happening is that there's a lot more like inbound that's coming where people are like, hey, I heard about this. What is this? And it's cool. Yeah. So it's starting to shift now in the US where there's still a ton of people that don't know about HYROX. Yeah. the ones that are hearing about it are intrigued and interested because they're friends of a friend who have done it. And it's cool.
Yeah, it's like the referral thing that you, for us as gyms, like, yeah, my friend did it. I really like your gym. I'm going to come in. That's the same thing.
Word of mouth is really important.
Yeah,
it's very powerful.
Right? So like, I think I would love to be able to, because I think everybody knows Spartan, right? When people think of Spartans and you walk into a Spartan gym, you're like, I'm in a Spartan gym, right? I think that's going to be huge. I think even I had a private event at my gym where Hardcore Fitness down in San Diego, one of the Hardcore Fitnesses, they were coming in and a bunch of their coaches were like, do we want to go do one of your gnarly workouts? And I'm like, okay. So I put them through a HYROX workout and we're like, this is cool. And there was 24 people in the room. 3 of them had already knew what HYROX was only because they had Googled my spot and they go, oh, there's a HYROX flag in there. What is this?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And so they walked in and now they're down in El Cajon, right? This gym. And so they came up, they're like, dude, I want to come up and train HYROX with you. So that's where I think I would love to see HYROX come into more of I understand they want to be in the larger cities, right? But like you guys added Mexico. Is there any like other areas that you guys are planning to join or add into the roster?
Some, for the fall and the spring, we do have some new locations that are going to come out. Yeah, cannot disclose those locations. Yeah. But one thing that we touched on before is like with New York, right? It's a central hub for a lot of, for like the US and the UK and all that kind of stuff. In the US, like everybody travels for races. As soon as New York was sold out, man, like I had a huge influx for Anaheim because they're like just trying to get in for that last chance to qualify for Worlds or get a last race in for the season. And so I don't think it's really cool to see that as long as we stay in the major cities or as long as we continue to grow in the major cities, people will travel for those races. Like hands down. I mean, we have a huge group from like Washington and Oregon that are coming out for Anaheim. It's just a natural progression. There's so many from Canada that come out for Anaheim. Which is,
Dallas.
They rolled
deep.
Yeah.
Bro.
It was Dallas,
And they must be training in the altitude, bro, because they was like, I was like, these guys are fast.
No, it's like negative 9 degrees, man. You run fast when it's cold, okay? It's Canada.
Facts, dude. I'm like, geez, Louise.
So what's beautiful with this conversation right here is tomorrow is Anaheim. We're talking about Anaheim here and how people couldn't make it into New York. Now they're in Anaheim. And we've talked about coming off the couch and trying to do this and everything else. If I'm a brand new HYROX athlete or I'm somebody who last minute signs up, somehow gets into Anaheim, give me the quick rundown of what you can expect as you walk into this, because I think every type of sporting event has its own feel. You have this, if you're an outdoor event, a Spartan race, you can see where all the rigs are. You can get a feel for what that energy is going to be. So walk us through what would people expect as they go into the convention center?
Just expect it to, I don't know. I always like reference it as a music festival with weights. Like it's just you walk in, there's music across the entire venue. No matter where you are, you're going to have the live DJ that's playing all day. You know?
Yeah.
Who, by the way, looks like the guy from what's the movie? What's the movie? The guy with the dodgeball.
Oh my God.
Who's the main guy?
I'm totally going to tell Coach that now.
Are you talking about Ben Stiller?
Yes, dude, Ben Stiller, bro.
Coach, apparently you look like Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Wow.
For a while, he had the handlebar mustache too.
But he's a vibe, though.
He's a vibe.
He's an incredible DJ. He rocks it all day,
I will say that he does a phenomenal job. And the fact that he can go the entire day and not repeat one song, it's amazing.
And then this killer bee, like he goes out afterwards, he's like, let's go to this place, and I was like, dude, I can't keep up with you. But so like the music is fire, the lights and the production of the event is just something like you're not going to experience anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Like the first time, what I tell most people on their first time, I was like, you're going to walk in and you're going to be like, I get it. Like, that's just it. Like, you're going to spend the day there and you're going to see all the people supporting their athletes. You're going to see adaptive athletes. You're going to see, people crying on the finish line and just the music's and the vibe and the bleachers and everything. And you're going to like, I get it, you know?
Yeah. If you weren't convinced or you're not convinced that you want to do a HYROX, just go in as a spectator. Yeah. It costs $10, right?
Yeah, it's $10. $10. Super cheap.
Come in.
Yeah.
So you got nothing to lose.
So again, walking into the venue, it's music. It's a music festival with weights and fitness. So as an athlete, I guess I would suggest that you first walk around and get the entire vibe of the venue.
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. So when you walk in, you will be overwhelmed.
Yes.
When you first see it, because you walk in, you as any sports venue, you walk right into the retail side of things, and you got stuff everywhere, and then you walk into where the actual event is going on. But you can hear everything that's going on. You can feel the energy as you're walking through those sections. Mm-hmm. So, in my take is definitely walk around and get what the vibe of that venue is or the event, and watch what's going on at any point in time.
Yes.
What is interesting is when you walk in as a spectator or as an athlete, the track that you are running around is right there at the entrance point. So
you walk through it.
It's bob and weave.
It's bob and weave. It's like
bob and weave.
It's like, for all the older people listening, it's like Frogger.
Yeah. Yes, it is 100% like Frogger.
Go.
Frogger. So you got to watch where the traffic's coming, but definitely as you go into the venue, definitely walk around and check out what's going on with the ski and the row area or the sled push and pull, because you're going to have an idea of, okay, if my coach is going to be, where's my coach going to be at? Where am I going to stash my water if I really need it? Or where am I going to stash my spring energy if I need it?
Yeah.
Right. So those are things that you really need to know. Plus, I know you guys, you have like lockers, I guess, or an athlete
have a
drop
bag
check area. Yeah.
So that's always nice. If you need that, there's always something there too, because you're definitely going to need your change of shoes and any kind of clothing you need that's there. But
you will be drenched after that race. You're going to need to change your clothes.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I will say is if it is your first time, like we always do a live walkthrough or a live feed on Friday night, or I guess Anaheim will not be a Friday night; it'll be a Saturday night because the race is on Sunday. But I would highly recommend watching that because you'll get a good feel for how the course is laid out. The stations, like it doesn't go consecutively through the stations. You have to.
No way.
Each station is numbered, which is good, but they're not in chronological order. So just make sure that you know where station 1, station 2, station 3 is, because sometimes they're a little hidden or close to the out and you can't see it. And I will get questions on the course about, I don't know where to go. Where's Sticks? And I'm like, it's over there. Keep going. But running, you're fine. But so that's one thing I would say is just watch the live feed because it'll give you a good understanding of what the course layout is. 2 is because there are so many people on course, as you're running around and you don't see your name pop up on the screen, keep running. Like just be mindful of your laps. One of the very first things that I see, or the biggest thing that I see with first timers, is they don't count their laps correctly and they get penalties on the laps. So make sure that you're counting your laps correctly and don't worry too much about paying attention to the screen. Just be very mindful because when you finish, you'll still have a finisher time. You'll still have splits, everything, even if it's not necessarily caught up yet.
You guys venue layout and how many laps you're supposed to be doing for that venue. Do you guys still do that?
Yes.
Yeah. So talk to people about what that is.
Yeah. That email will go out it usually goes out with your wave time. So you'll know what time you're starting. And speaking of that, like they'll write your wave time on your arm. So usually it'll be the time and a number. So let's say you went out at 9:00, you'd be 0900 and then 32 or something like that, right? Depending on how many people are in the wave. So they'll send over the wave time and a breakdown of the course layout and the map and stuff. So definitely take a look at that. Most people don't. And then they show up and they're like, I don't know where to go. I'm like, we sent you the information. And then we also post it on like social media and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I would say that I think you're absolutely right for the new people that are doing extra laps or not enough laps. Like that's the one question from venue to venue that I've done now in Fort Worth and San Diego. And I'm sorry, not San Diego, LA and Anaheim. And now we're going to Mexico, like looking at these things, like that email is what I look forward to. Like I really don't look at the lives are cool. Like you get an idea of the lay of the land. But for me, the email is like the one thing. I'm only supposed to do 1.5, 2.5 laps or whatever that is. Right. And so that's the biggest thing the value that I have that you guys, but the onboarding of the new competitor or the onboarding of the athlete to that venue that they've never done before is probably something that you guys do very well.
Yeah. And then just knowing the movement standards. So the 2 that are usually always the hot button points are your burpee broad jumps and wall balls.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that people get dinged on all the time.
Again, I'll come back to the strategy aspect.
They are never going to raise the height of the wall ball.
Well, no, that's not what I want to say. But I will come back to the strategy aspect here in a second because I want to talk about that.
Okay.
He wants to go a quarter way down on his wall ball. It's not all the way down. He doesn't want to hit parallel. That's the issue.
Cute. Yeah.
But go ahead.
So that's a huge thing as we're talking about the live feed and the emails and stuff. I think one of the interesting things we talk about the laps, and every venue is different. Every layout is a little bit different based on the style of the convention center flooring, so on and so forth.
Yes.
And that's going to be standard across the board with a lot of events. But what I find quite interesting and why it's important that you look at any of your information is it's not a full complete lap most of the times.
Yeah.
It ends up being
Correct.
3.5 or 2 3/4.
Yes.
So on that topic though, people talk, I did more than 8 kilometers or 8,000 meters. I've watched you set up at a couple races. And when I tell you that they're measured down to the last damn meter, I understand that they are. For people that are coming in new, they're running 1,000-meter loop. But what's never talked about for the new athlete is a transition to that race.
Oh, good point.
You know what I mean? So like touch on that a little bit, because I've watched you with the meter stick go around the loop. Like you're running 1,000 meters, you guys. You're absolutely, once you get on the course, you're running 1,000 meters. What's not taken into consideration is
that's a really good point to make. I have the privilege of actually being there the day before and setting up the course with the ops team. They do an amazing job with setting up the course. But yeah, you're right. It depends on the venue. It depends on the size of the venue. It depends on if there's pillars in the way, right? We got pillars in the way, all kinds of stuff.
Wall.
There's a wall. Yeah. Got to go around the wall.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Pasadena was like outside the venue, and then you ran into the venue. Like,
yeah. Oh man, it's crazy.
Yeah. But
yeah, with that said, like we get it as close to 1,000 meters as possible. However, depending on how big the rock zone is, that distance counts in the overall measurement, right?
Got it.
So when we're measuring, air quotes, measuring the course, it has to meet an overall standard. So we have an overall measurement number that we need to hit consistently at every single race.
Got it. I did not know that.
With that said, sometimes if the rock zone is really large and you have a lot of running in the rock zone, your run outside might be shorter.
Got it. Okay.
Because we have to account for it. We're counting for like the in arch to the station to the out arch. We're counting all of that. Right. And
Omar's been making us run extra meters. God damn
good.
it.
As you should.
As you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know that you guys do such an amazing job setting up these venues, but there's also, like you pointed out earlier, the rock zone the zones are not in linear format. If you go to DECA, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and I still mess that up.
Like,
I still skip the
in a row here.
It's because you can't
literally
count.
What's after 2? Oh shit, 3.
Yeah.
Is it 4? But that is not the case at HYROX. Every venue is different, and you'll have one, and then on the other side of the venue will be 2. Mm-hmm. And so you guys take all that into consideration.
Yes.
They do that to fuck with the athlete. There's no point of it. They just do it to fuck with the athlete. That's what it is. I guarantee
Why
it.
would they put one next to 2?
Crystal's in okay, we're going to fuck with these guys. Really bad, son. We're going to make them go 1 way over here to 2 and then way over here to 3. 4 is going to be short, but 5 and 6 is going to be way over here.
Dude, I like that aspect of it. Dude, I do. I was bored after doing like the second deck of fit. I'm like, I already know what I'm going to walk into. Like when I walk into HYROX, I'm like, oh shit. All right, everybody walk the course, damn it.
Oh, my favorite is when we have a lot of space, like Chicago, right? Our 80 meter burpee broad jumps is just a straight line. There's no down and back. It's just all the way down.
That's evil.
Because we have the space. Cool. We're like, might as well.
That's horrible.
It's beautiful. It's glorious.
Infinite burpee broad jumps.
I honestly don't know. I think I'd rather just go in one straight shot.
Really?
I don't want to turn around and go
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
I like the way Fort Worth was, dude, where you're like the farmer's carry.
Oh, the L shape.
The L shape.
That
was
I
cool.
Like that. That was
way better than like the zigzag pattern. That was
nice.
Zigzag. Yeah.
But burpees, I just want to go straight. Just one straight shot. I don't want to have to come back.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
So that's the biggest thing on the distance is that it has to meet an overall number. And so we're trying to make sure that every course hits that number. So sometimes the rock zone's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. Sometimes we have 50 ski ergs in a row and you have to run all the way down.
Dude, that's horrible, by the way. Dude. You're like, I'm like, whenever you guys have that long ski erg or the long
like,
rower,
oh my
I'm
God,
like,
it's so far.
Get to the furthest one closest to the exit.
It's
Go
so
if
far.
you can, right?
Yeah.
So-
It's funny, and sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
One of the things that I always find quite interesting, and it always comes into my brain when we're training for it, is because I'm the tallest person in.
Josh Borelli's close to you.
Yeah, but him and I don't work out together.
Yeah, you're spoiled. We understand that. Everybody
Well, no,
understands
I know
that
that.
Jeff
I'm
Stoner
bougie.
is spoiled.
I get it.
You're bougie.
Whatever.
I'm bougie.
Yeah,
I'm
he
bougie.
only works out with his coach.
Yeah, I'm bougie. Anyway, what intrigues me is the fact that, and there's got to be some kind of setup with your team, is because I'm so tall and there's a lot of shorter people when you get to the rower, right? Because the foot adjustments on the rower can really screw me up because there's a lot of smaller feet. Do you guys set it up where there's a certain amount that have bigger shoes or bigger feet versus smaller? Because I've never had an issue. I'm just serious.
Yeah.
You're walking in. Everybody has the setting at 1, and you're
Yeah,
size 17 foot.
But this goes back to somebody who has never done a Hyrox
Right.
before. And those are things that you have to adjust for at the gym. Like, what is the mentality when it comes to setting up your rowers like that?
We set the rowers and the ski ergs all consistently across the board. So they're all set at the same ones. They're set at 3 for the foot pegs and 5 or 6, depending on the damper for the rower or the ski erg.
Got it.
5 or 6. And it's set like that at the beginning of the day. Now, because athletes can adjust those throughout the day, it's really hard for our staff, like our head judges
Got
and
it.
volunteers, to
Maintain
go
that.
through and reset those.
3.
They do try and reset the dampers as often as possible, but sometimes that's even a little challenging with the constant rolling of athletes.
So I think that's also a good point, is as an athlete who's just coming into this or doing their first one, explain the damper settings
And the rules
because
behind it,
the rules behind it, because you can adjust that as you need it. But once it's done, you can't adjust it mid exercise. Is that correct?
Right. You can only adjust it once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you're doing doubles or solo, you can only adjust the damper once. So when you jump on the rower, set it to what you want it to be. Just get in the habit of, like, when you get to the machine, like, set it to what you want it to be immediately.
So
And then don't touch it.
can they adjust it after they've already started? Or is it the rule is that they adjust it before they start?
The rule is that they adjust it before they start. Now, granted, in the rule book, it says you can only adjust the damper once. However, we stress to adjust it prior to starting, because you can't, if you start on, let's say it's set on 6, you start on 6, your partner cannot jump on as a doubles partner and then adjust it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mhm.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Let me be very clear on that aspect, right?
And I've noticed that Hyrox has gotten real particular on the movement standards for you guys is, like, bar none, doing several different races in different companies and stuff like that. Bar none, I've felt the most scrutiny from the movement standards at a Hyrox event.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
That's what we want. And
what talk to us about that process and how that came to be? Because easily you can get into the conversation between Spartan and getting rid of the burpee penalties and all this other stuff, right? What's the process for you guys at the day of the venue for your judges and all that stuff?
We usually meet with the head judges. We usually handpick the head judges. They're people that we trust that will hold those movement standards and be able to train the volunteers. We usually have a call with them the week before, or we talk to them the night before or day of, going over the movement standards. They also get the rule book and movement standards prior to the event so that they know what's going on. And then we very thoroughly go through that with them. And then they relay that to the volunteers. A lot of times the volunteers, depending on where we're getting them from, a lot of them are like ROTC kids, you know, these poor little kiddos that just do not want to yell at adults. I feel so bad for them. But I was like, oh, this is not the place for you, but it's okay. We're going to work with you. You're doing great, sweetie.
You're
Like,
be just fine.
doing just fine.
Stand here and look pretty.
So some of the volunteers are, you know, a little bit to be desired when it comes to holding those standards, because throughout the day they just get fatigued. These poor kiddos get fatigued. Like they're starting at 7:30 in the morning. And if they're working an entire day, they're working a 12-hour day.
Right.
Right. I mean, we do feed them and we do give them breaks. But
more than we can say on some of the other races that we've been recently. But anyway.
But yeah, for the most part, like we try to make sure. And then as race directors, we are constantly running around, like helping and maintain those standards. Right. Yeah. So like getting them more like, hey, this is what you need to look for. Hey, watch this guy. Like, hey, watch these hands, watch those feet. We're always working on improving those standards across the board because, of course, somebody's going to get missed with 3,000 athletes. Someone's going to get missed and someone's going to get a video of it and then say that we don't hold the standards. And I understand the frustration as an athlete and we try to do our best and we're consistently trying to be better about that. So if you wanted to volunteer, I've got a link for you. I can drop it in the bottom. Please feel free to help us hold those standards.
That was good.
Please help us hold those standards. That would be great.
As race organizers, it is definitely hard to find volunteers that are great, but it's always nice when volunteers do show up. And if they're not the best, you work with them. But we always appreciate volunteers.
Absolutely.
In any sport that comes about, because you cannot do these events without volunteers. Yeah.
And so we're always so appreciative of them. They try to like make sure that they feel welcome because they are. It's a sport for everybody, including the volunteers.
Yeah. When we talk about volunteers, like we had a couple people from our community that weren't doing the race that volunteered, right? They were high school kids, right? When I talk about being scrutinized as an athlete during a HYROX, I've been told your hands are too far forward. And so when I'm doing my burpees or whatever, make sure whatever those standards are, I've been stopped. And so you talked about using the volunteers. When I have volunteers that are like, okay, cool. You're going to volunteer. Great. You're going to be representing my gym. So you better have a big voice. You better adhere to whoever your captain is or your head judge is going to be. You better, like, these are the things that, do you guys do that with the volunteers or is it just with the head judges?
We do, but some of these volunteers that come in, again, are high school kids trying to get credits. So some of them are new to HYROX. And it's a lot. Like we talked about walking into the venue for the first time.
It's like walking into a Super Bowl.
It's a lot, right? Yeah. And then you have these athletes flooding into your station. So I agree that there are aspects of the volunteers that we are trying to improve on and create better experiences for our athletes and for them to make sure that they really understand what HYROX is. Just most of the time we're getting them that morning. We don't have time with them prior. So it's the head judges that are really in charge of their stations that we're trying to pour more of it into. If we have strong leaders, they will lead their people. And that's what we've seen in previous races where there's some coaches that are just on it, right? And you're like, yes, this is a good group right here, right? Yeah. But it's because the leaders are strong. Yeah. And so that's what we're really trying to focus on is like, how do we make sure that our head judges are strong leaders and can lead these people in the way that we need them to hold those standards.
And how do you pick your head judges? Because I would have to echo that sentiment. You can definitely tell when you walk into a zone who the head judge is immediately. How do you pick your head judges?
It's gotten more specific as we've continued to grow because now we have more people who want to be head judges, which is cool. Yeah. And so now we've been a little bit more selective as to who we choose. A lot of times it comes down to, have you been a coach before? Have you ran a HYROX race before? Have you head judged before? I think those are the three things that we look for mainly because, first of all, coaches are coachable, which is really nice. And two, they're used to holding people to standards, right? They understand the biomechanics, what we're looking for, and how to relay that to other people.
That's cool.
And then, of course, if you've had judged before, then you understand how the day goes, right? Yeah. The other part is that you can't be racing if you're a head judge. Yeah. So you've got to be in the station for the day.
Going back to the growth aspect, I'm going to rewind it a little bit. So I'm an affiliate. What are some of the things that you guys are? I remember when I first became an affiliate, how welcome I felt to the community, right?
Yeah.
Is that going to continue to happen as the sport grows? Where do you guys see the affiliate program kind of heading?
Expand on that. What is the affiliate program?
Yeah. Sure.
So if somebody's listening in and they're a coach
or a gym owner,
right? Like, how do you get involved with that?
Yeah. So contacting your regional manager in your area is the best way to get involved with the affiliation. The affiliation is just such a cool program. It's a low fee every month. And what you get is it completely outweighs the cost. There's a lot of support from HYROX. You're on all of our platforms. You're highlighted in newsletters. We do try and promote and support events that our affiliates are doing over like outside events. right? And then we always try to make sure that we're hosting events with them, showing them how to utilize the affiliation, which comes with 40 plus weeks of programming for group classes or personal training. There is marketing materials for you to utilize. And then your RM is the one that really helps like hone in like where you want to go with the brand. But what I always tell people that are looking at the affiliation is what I usually try and get more information about the gym and be like, hey, what is your community like? And what do you feel like you're lacking in your community right now? Because I promise you there's an avenue where the HYROX affiliation can support you in that. So a good example is if we talked about CrossFit earlier. There are some people that absolutely love doing the CrossFit Open and trying to compete in that, but then there's a big group of them that don't necessarily have something to compete in. Cool. Let me show you how HYROX can support you in that. Right. And so I always look at the affiliation for HYROX as an added bonus to really support your community and grow your community organically. It's not something where you put HYROX on the wall and people are just going to flood in for you. You've got to do the work. With any affiliation, you have to do the work. You have to believe in it. You have to buy into it, and you have to be HYROX. And I promise you, it really does. Omar can speak for that. Like his PFT will hold 80 people, So which I don't know where he gets all these rowers, but like
a lot of favors.
Yeah. But yeah, the boutique gym can actually really impact the community with what he believes in and how he uses the affiliation. So that's what I usually say is if you're interested in being an affiliate with HYROX, I promise you that it can support what you're trying to build in your community. The main thing is that you just have to know what that is, like what's lacking in your community and how you want to build it. And yeah, HYROX can help for sure.
I can echo that. And just because I became an affiliate, it's, of course, my opinion is partial, right? Because I'm an affiliate, but it's also very genuine when I can say this outright. And I've said this to you before, like I felt so welcomed as part of the community, but primarily my community and the values of my community aligned with HYROX.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to be the case when I was going to think about becoming a DECA affiliate because they promoted that fitness was for everyone. But I just felt very supported, very loved at the race. And so it made me go, I wonder what it would be like if I was actually part of this HYROX affiliate program and part of the HYROX community as a whole. And it was identical to being in a race and feeling warmed and welcomed and appreciated and shot out and all these things. So kudos to HYROX for that, right? Good job for that. Where do you guys see the affiliate programming grow? So you and I have talked, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, but we talk about you get the 12-week programming, you get all this other stuff. Are there other things that are going to be added to it, like online support or online programming, stuff like that?
Yeah. So it's called HYROX 365. The idea is that it's an actual hub outside of the race website where our affiliates can utilize. So you can actually put your logo up there. You can put class times up there. You can have access to online training there. There's so much more that you're going to be able to do with HYROX 365. And that's going to be specifically for affiliates. And it's been in the works for a while. Like we've been working on that for about 1.5 years, 2 years to really make sure that it was legit when it comes out and that it's usable. They didn't want to try and, excuse my language, but like half-ass it, right? They wanted to make sure that it was viable, it was usable and tangible for the affiliates. So it's pretty cool.
That's the problem with a lot of the platforms that come out or apps that come out, right? People just want to push them out just to have something there. And it's half the time you're on customer service trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
100%. I've gone through two apps and I'm like, shoot me. And so like yet another app, but that's cool and exciting to hear about that in affiliate programming.
It's something I do want to touch on with the affiliation is I think when people think affiliation, they think that it's specifically for their gym, specifically for their community, and that they're now in competition with other affiliates. And something I would love to kind of push out there is something, that we really believe is that the affiliates should be working together. Like why are we not building a bigger community? Why are we not working together? Why is it this competition? Like my members can be your members and vice versa. And we see this a lot. There are plenty of people that go to multiple gyms nowadays, have 3 different gym memberships because they get something at every single one. Yeah. So why not support that instead of trying to be combative about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can I speak on this? Because this is, we have had conversations in regards to this. And it's one of those things that as a race director in the trail running space, right? We're a very niche market as far as the running community. I've always looked at other trail races as not as the competitor, but other options for it. And it's all about the growth of the community and how we can help better the athlete and give the runner more option to go out there and do what they like to do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I guess it's always given me a bad taste in my mouth a little bit. And I used to be a personal trainer years and years ago, but it was one of those things that you still saw it back in the day, is like gyms are like very protective of their own stuff. Whereas
It's
they
not
don't.
back in the day. It's still happening.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is it was back in the day, even then.
Yeah.
But gyms are very protective of their people, their members, the way they coach, everything else. And I definitely see that, where it's, if you're a DECA affiliate or a HYROX affiliate, you should be working together. Like, as far as, hey, let's get our athletes together, or not together, but you've got something going on here. We're training this way. We're training this way. How can we better the community between the 2, the 3, the 4 gyms that are in that area doing this? And that's one of the things that's always been really tricky for me from that perspective, is I look at it as competition, like, is great for all the entire community. Like, give people the opportunity to go out there and experience something else. Like you said, today, most people are part of 2 or 3 different types of gyms or some kind of coaching. Yeah. And it helps better the athlete overall if they have that opportunity. So why not work together? That's just my spiel on it. I see it in racing all the time. And when we started our business, we started our races, that was the one thing that I did, is I went to all the other race directors in the area and I made sure, listen, I'm coming in, I'm going to start these races, but they're going to be on a different time frame of yours. They're going to be in different areas, but I will make sure that I promote your races during my off season.
Nice. That's amazing.
Because I want my runners to still be able to go out there and participate and have fun and do what they want to do.
It's a lot harder to do that in the HYROX affiliation program. And I love the program. I'm going to be a part of the program for as long as they allow me to be a part of the program. So I'm going to say that. And I think it's easier to do what you're saying in your arena, right? Because you can literally go, well, somebody's going to sign up for an ultra or this type of trail race. They're not going to sign up for my 5 or 10K or even half, right? And so you can actually do what you just said you do. Go reach out to these other trail affiliate or these other trail racing companies and be like, hey, I'm coming in. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to market this on these days separate from you. And I'm not going to saturate it, all this other stuff. I think I've done this personally for myself as an affiliate to HYROX. I've reached out to other affiliates in my area and I'm like, hey, I notice that you're not using the affiliation program. Like, you're not promoting it. You're not talking HYROX, friends that are gym owners. And I'm like, is there anything I can do to help?
That's amazing.
And it's to my own detriment, right? Because I would love for some of their members to come over to my gym and pay me. But I truly understand and believe that each gym community is unique in itself. Yeah. I understand that my brand of community is not going to be for everyone. And when we set up the program for Anaheim, the 12-week program that we launched, I was like, I want 82 people. Now I got a little gym. I got a tiny gym, right? And so I'm like, I want 82 people. And I didn't realize that 82 was way outside of I would have had to rearrange my entire gym, rearrange my entire schedule to accommodate 82 people because I had 80 plus people at my PFT. I should have 82 athletes going to Anaheim, right? But I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I only got 62. Why? Because now I can really focus in on my other 2, but now I can... People that are not part of my gym, if there's another affiliate that only has 5 or 6 or 10, why wouldn't they go to that gym? Yeah. If they're really like doing the legwork to use the affiliation to enhance their community, like you just said, it's so beneficial to not just HYROX, but to fitness as a whole. Yes. I think it is so disgusting, and I'm going to use that word. It's disgusting to see gyms go, well, no, I'm going to hoard my people and they might not be growing in my community, or they might not want to do HYROX, and I'm not, whatever, right? Not give the athlete the opportunity to experience something that they're actually maybe they're not, they don't think they're capable of doing. And then they go out and do it. Like, that's huge. They might not want to do it in your community for whatever reason. There's a variety of reasons why people don't want to do a certain thing at their gym, but they'll go to another gym and do that one thing that they didn't think they were able to do because maybe they don't know the same amount of people. Like, fitness should be a universal form of love.
Absolutely.
And so you share that in between in hopes that people will have the opportunity to experience something like HYROX, or in hopes that they will actually do something to better their fitness. like last I checked, we still are in a obesity epidemic, and there's several people in the world that need more fitness.
Yeah.
And my gym's only 19,000 square feet or 1,900 square feet. I wish it was 19,000. I wish.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm using the entire parking lot, you guys know, but 1,900 square feet, right? And there's other gyms in the area that are like 3,000-4,000 square feet that could totally use HYROX as an affiliate, right? And so I think that is what HYROX has done very well. And I know we talked about adding the bells and whistles. What are you guys doing to nurture that openness between affiliates?
That's something that we're still like working to accomplish. Like you said, every gym owner is different.
Right.
And I'll preface this again. It comes from the leaders on how HYROX is built in the community.
Right.
So a really great example is like how you've built it and how you're reaching out and how you're trying to get in more contact with affiliates. Like, we need more of that. And I think it's very easy as a gym owner to get so caught up in what you're doing and how you're building and what's going on in your small circle to think outside of that box. I would say that the gyms that I've seen not utilize the affiliation in the best manner are the ones that just don't do anything with it. They don't try, they don't. And then, sometimes I'll get some gym owners that are like, oh, I don't think it's for my people. And I'm like, okay, that's understandable. Like, you know your community, but
maybe just the brand is trying to sell something, right?
Yeah. Like, it might come off as a sales pitch.
I'm a HYROX affiliate. And then that's all you're using it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've gotten more benefit from saying that I'm a HYROX affiliate than I have had, like, to the contrary. And so what I mean by that is I've lost clients, and I'm less than that. I can count them on two fingers, like, that I've lost, but I've gained tenfolds more, right? And only because I'm not ready to do a HYROX. Oh, I'm sorry. I understand you feel like you're not ready to do a HYROX. I think you're totally capable of doing one. But if you don't want to be part of my gym because I'm a HYROX affiliate, great. But 99% of the time, it's the other way around. It's, oh, you're a HYROX affiliate? I've heard about this thing. I really want to do this. This is cool.
Yeah.
What kind of training? Oh, yeah, we do affiliate programming. We do this, da, 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 da. And I just talk about the community in itself. And it just sells itself, right? Because you guys do such a great job at the venues. But that to say is we need more. I would love to see HYROX do more affiliate camaraderie type things where you can get into the region and you could have other affiliates. We did a couple calls. I would love to. Is there anything like that coming up?
To an extent, I think there is a lot of opportunity for that. But we have an event at Fitness on Fire on 5/11, which is like a affiliate community event where I'm trying to get affiliates to come to Fitness on Fire and teach a station. So let's say like you would teach the ski erg, and then Josh would teach another station, and I have another coach from another gym come up. And that way it brings the affiliates together. I saw this in Canada and it was absolutely beautiful. At one academy, they had an entire day it was 12-minute stations, and they were brutal because you'd go through the movement standards and then they had a little mini workout, right? You're doing that 8 times because there's 8 stations. It was great. But there were coaches from different affiliate gyms.
Your words said it was great. Your face said otherwise. Okay.
Beautiful. Simple and effective. It's great. Yeah. But they had coaches from different affiliate gyms come out and teach each station. And
that's amazing.
So their members came out for it. And like you had this great camaraderie of all of these affiliate gyms that are just trying to build HYROX in Canada, which was so cool. And I was like, we're going to do that out there. Sure. So like we're trying to build that for Fitness on Fire on the 11th, is to make sure that we have some affiliate like gyms come out, bring their people. Let's have a community event on just going over, like, last chance to go over movement standards, get the kinks and the knots out, right before the race. kind of thing. And I think like events like this would be great. I cannot wait until we get to a point where, you know, during the summer when it's a little bit quieter, we're holding like HYROX summer games or something with affiliates, like affiliate gyms against each other, you know. It would be so much fun if we could get something like that together.
So I'm going to go on record and say that I want to do one of those in my gym.
Done. Okay.
All right. And so
let's do it.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And that is, you just gave me goosebumps. Like you want to talk about my heart is that. Like, how powerful would it be if you had all the gyms in the area that were just let's talk about affiliates,
just like
right?
HYROX affiliate games.
Affiliate games. Yeah, like, dude. Now we're getting into the conversation of like
let's
strategy.
make it happen.
Let's have that conversation, right? But before
hit the drawing board.
I've been waiting on pins and needles here, man.
We're down. You see Jeff's on the edge of his chair right now. He's ready to jump.
To go.
But that is so powerful when I think about like my gym calendar is built around like HYROX wintertime, right? HYROX season. But then there's a big gap in the summertime, like you talked about. And so I've been on the fence of what do I do? What do I do to fill my gap? Like, I'm not a gym that does like the 12-week, 6-week challenges, weight loss thing. I'm not that gym, right? That's not what my community is about. Nothing against those gyms, but I just don't do those things.
Yeah.
But I am about performance. I am about community. I am about showing love through fitness and movement. Like those are all powerful things. And how powerful would it be if we can get all the affiliates in? What do we need to do to get that going in our
man, let's talk.
Let's
all right,
talk.
let's talk. Let's make it happen.
All right, so now let's go.
Can that be an offer?
Yeah.
Good. First of all, we've kept Crystal long enough.
All right,
So I'm going to keep this short. And these are just ideas. And I'm just spitballing here.
Okay.
And you can either tell me to fuck off or
feel free to tell me
that's a great idea, Jeff. And I'll give you credit for it. That's all I want.
You don't even give him credit. As long as you do it, trust me, he'll walk around and take credit for it.
Here we go. I've got a laundry list of stuff here.
All right. Cool.
Number one, I would like to see a Clydesdale division.
Wow.
Clydesdale division.
Yeah.
So he's talking like Ironman.
Like triathlons.
Triathlons.
Usually have some kind of Clydesdale division. Like you're over 215, 220 pounds. And that has its own category. You might sit in your age group still, but if you're over a certain weight, you're in a Clydesdale division and you can podium for something like that. And I look at that as look at how many bigger athlete individuals are out there. Male, female, whatever it is. There's a Clydesdale in both male and female categories. We talk about expanding the type of athlete that comes in, the new athlete, the athlete that's on the verge of getting into this. If there's a category for the Clydesdale, again, has to be a certain weight category. And it could be something where maybe if they're going to be part of it, they have to weigh in prior to starting the race or whatever it is, right? There's rules that factor into that. But that, in my take, one, I fit into that category. But two,
He says that until his sled is like 580 pounds.
Well, I'm not, wait, hold on. I'm not saying.
It's like, why do I have a 20-pound wall ball? What's going on?
30-pound wall balls. Here we go, baby.
I'm not really saying, pro is a completely different deal, right? Not everybody's going to go and do a pro. So I look at it as an open category type of deal. But again, this all comes back, like I said, it comes back to those new HYROX eyeballs that are like, oh, if I'm a little bit overweight or I'm just getting into shape or I'm doing this for the first time, it gives a little bit more of an incentive type of deal. That's idea number one.
Okay.
All right. Again,
fuck off.
She's looking at me like,
that was a fuck off look, bro.
No, number two, and this is where the strategy comes into play.
Okay.
We're really gonna get a fuck off on this one.
Yeah, she's gonna walk out the door.
Like, what is that?
So I think it would be really cool because you look at it as we talk about the time frame of a type of event being around, right? Let's say HYROX comes into year 20, right? And this is a little bit longer deal, and a really great question for down the road is, what does HYROX do to help evolve the sport, right? Like the idea that HYROX is still going to be doing the same exact movements in the same exact order 20 years from now, there's got to be an adjustment. I personally, I think, because you always have to keep the sport fresh. Yeah, you are going to want to bring in the new individual constantly. right? So it's harder to keep those individuals that maybe do 1 or 2 events per year coming in, doing 2 events, 3 events year after year. And then it all of a sudden becomes, hey, I just did 3 events 3 years down the road. Like, I just did Anaheim. I just did LA. I'm fine. I've done it. I've done plenty. Right. So there's that mentality. Right.
Sure.
So eventually, and again, this could be 20 years down the road when it's a new regime of the sport coming in, right? Is how does the rock zone or the workouts change in a little bit? Here's where my idea comes in at.
So just so the listeners, he's really just going on record with these ideas. Okay. He's not really asking Crystal a question.
I know exactly where the answers are for this.
Haven't gotten to a question yet. But it's okay.
I'm waiting for the question here, you guys.
So
But go ahead.
I'm a very long-winded conversation.
This is why we started a podcast.
Exactly. And I don't get a chance to speak very often because Omar talks a lot more than I do.
1,000%.
So now 100%. This is my opportunity to go in the corner. I'm going to get my fuck offs right here, right now. So anyway,
let him speak.
My long extended idea here with this is you get some of those people that maybe don't like wall balls, maybe don't want to do the burpees. What if it comes into the fact of, okay, you can trade out one event or one exercise to run extra laps.
No. See, I'm going to shoot that down right now. Nobody.
That was a fuck off.
Be very clear. Nobody likes doing burpee broad jumps. Not one person going out there is like, sweet, station 4.
But
yeah.
But it's one of those things like you come in, you're like, okay, you have the option to skip one of these events. And you don't tell anybody. You write it down so that it's in the system of, hey, they skip this one. You're doing extra laps, whatever, on the broad jump burpees or wall balls, whatever it is. Then Omar and I don't know which zone we're skipping. So all of a sudden now I might have to go do broad jump burpees. But fuck that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to run an extra 1,000 meters or maybe it's an extra mile, whatever it is. Now I'm like, oh, now where am I at versus the rest of my age group? All right. See where I'm going with this?
I do. I'm gonna put a hard stop to it right now. And this is the reason why, right? I love your ingenuity and I like where your mind is going as
race director to race
as
director.
a race director. But I will argue this back. What has changed about triathlons?
Nothing.
How long have they been around?
Well, they've been around forever.
Bingo.
But
how many people do them?
Last time there was almost 3,000 people there.
Yeah, there's
continues to grow.
There's millions of people to go around. That's also a sport that only does the 3 events, and they've done stuff where it's now like a reverse triathlon and a duathlon, whatever it is, right? Like, again, I don't foresee HYROX changing anything, and nor should you change anything whatsoever. But as you go down the road, we all know how fitness mentally changes as far as what is good for the body, what's some of the hardest exercises, whatever it is. So I would assume, again, 20, 30 years down the road, and maybe this never happens, but I would assume that there's some adjustment that the higher ups look at and say, instead of doing this, why don't we do that? Or even changing the order of the events. Now that comes back to my next strategy point.
Hold up. Let's touch on this one first.
Stop.
Let's touch on this one first.
Hard stop.
Stop on that one. Okay.
So the reason I bring up triathlon is because they've been around for a very long time.
Yep.
The premise is still the same. The distance is still the same.
Yep.
Yet people are still continuously signing up for them.
Yep.
New people come in constantly to sign up for them, right? Does that mean that somebody that was doing them 30 years ago is still doing them? Possibly.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still a possibility. What makes triathlons, what makes it so that people continuously sign up for triathlons is the location. So we already have started to see where HYROX is starting to implement these like special events. New York, where it's outside on the pier. Miami, which was on the beach. They're talking about potentially doing one at a Formula One track. Like super fun kind of things that are outside of the norm of a convention center that give a little bit of an additional spark to the sport. But it's not changing the fundamentals of the sport.
No, and
I think keeping the fundamentals of the sport is going to be something they're going to push for as long as possible. However, as there's always potential for growth and change, with a sport, of course. But what makes HYROX so amazing is that I believe it can combat something like triathlon where the fundamentals of the sport don't change. Mm-hmm. However, maybe the location or like a specialty event is what really changes the dynamic of it.
You're not veering from your standard, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And so like you're protecting that standard. I love that.
Changing too much can also hinder the sport.
100%.
Right. Let me just be clear. This is all my personal strategy. I don't expect IROX to change its fundamental deal. And I'll say that because Omar says I need to get this out into the world because it's only him and I that talk about this, or I talk to him about it. And it's really what it comes down to.
And trust me, I'm tired of hearing about it.
So this is my own personal strategy brain coming out.
What's the third one?
Now, what I think okay, you've given me a hard stop on changing the fundamentals. I am 100% fine with that.
Think about it too. And now that she brings that up, baseball's been around for how long? Just think about any other sport, right?
Yeah, apples and oranges. You can't do much with baseball. All you can do is speed up the fucking pitch count, right? You can't take 10 minutes in between each pitch. Whatever. You're going to now do.
However, we are getting now more divisions. So we get a lot of questions about under 16. When is that going to be available?
There you go.
Okay, I'm not confirming.
See?
I'm not confirming or denying anything.
See?
However, we've had questions about this. I'm not confirming or denying anything. However, we have questions about a youth division,
Which would be really cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's where the addition of new athletes comes in at, because as the running category, 30, 40-year-olds are your highest category. And it doesn't really matter which, from road trail, whatever, the 18 and under and the 20 somethings are always the hardest to get.
100%.
So if you guys are looking at potentially doing something where it's an under 16 or 18, under 18, whatever it is, I think that's a brilliant move.
And this is why, like I say, the sport is for everybody, because we have people in the 65 plus, 70, like 80s doing this race, right? And it's amazing. Like we have to now create new divisions for them because we didn't have them before. Yeah. And it kind of pisses me off a little bit. I'm like, I wish I was up in that age group right now because it'd be so dope. Because now when I get there, so are all these other people that are 30s and 40s. And I was like, man, I'm going to be racing against Allison Outlaw for the rest of my life. Like,
I think that's part, again, this is personal. I think that's as a 48-year-old, I race in one of the highest categories. So if that 40 to 50 is like the largest category, I think, with you guys, probably 35.
The 35 to 39
is probably right there as well. So I'm with you. I'm like, as I go into sport, I'm following everybody else.
You just got to get faster, bro.
So I do. But again, it comes down to going back to a Clydesdale style division where somebody who's been around it for a while and you're stuck in a category with a lot of faster, smaller individuals that can still push a lot of that weight. You look at it as, oh shit, I'm stronger or just as strong as some of these smaller people, but I'm not as fast in the run. And I think that in every single event that I've done, you always see that category of athlete that's competing and wanting to do better and everything else.
I think the addition of categories is pretty smart.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. And whether there's a Clydesdale or not. Right.
And but even we talk about the more realistic under 16 or under 18, whatever it is.
Or even the go road division. Like there's like even the relay teams. Like I legitimately look at your guys' offering and I'm like, and I picture the athlete that's walking into my gym and going, he or she's going to be good doing a relay. So,
all right. So we'll wrap this up because I know you got to get going. So I got one more thing. And I think this actually would be just an interesting deal. I think it would be really cool is if let's say New York versus Anaheim or New York versus London or whatever it is, right? You got two different venues, two different international, whatever. I think it'd be really cool is if each area had its own order of stuff. Right. Hey, New York, you're not doing wall balls last. You're doing the sled push last. And again, that's just off the wall. But from a venue perspective or from a different vibe, like keeping the fundamentals there, but switching it so people are like, oh shit, now I got to do wall balls first. And just think about it, having to do wall balls first and then going into a sled push. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's terrible.
That's terrible.
horrible
right?
idea.
So I thought that would, again, just my own personal strategy thing. That would be something that it would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
In the athlete's mentality of holy shit, and you're not announcing it until a week prior or something, where that venue is, yeah, by the way, here's our
Here's the order of things.
here's the order of things.
Yeah.
And I think like all these ideas are fun and exciting. And I think that's where the affiliation comes into play.
Oh yeah.
So I think a lot of these things can be done as like a competitive thing through the affiliates.
Or even a PFT.
Look how she brings it back to reality.
Yeah. So
Because-
she let you float for a
Yeah,
while.
she did.
She's bringing you back down.
She literally just popped my bubble just by
she did not pop.
She-
no.
I'm saying
did.
it's possible.
possible.
However, on a smaller scale, it's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
But you have people that are already confused as to where the station 6 is
100%.
at races.
I get that.
If we change that up, that's a lot of.
You don't.
I just heard cats all day already, and I just can see it.
Again, you're a
However-
race director, so you to see this going on all over the place. Yeah.
However, I think that these are great ideas and should be utilized in an affiliation way where we get the affiliates together and create this type of movement.
Well, yeah.
You know?
I think that going back to what you said about what Fitness on Fire is going to be doing, I think that's where something like this can come into play. Last thing before we let you go, I want to see, as an affiliate, more recognition on, we talked about this on one of the affiliate calls. Who brings the most people in? Who has the fastest athlete? Like recognizing those affiliates would be huge, right? And
Yes.
so like you guys did a little bit of that, especially in LA. Like we did a little bit of that. Is there more and more of that coming along?
Omar just wants to let everybody know Omo Training House brings the heat.
Yeah.
Baby. We do.
Yeah.
We do. Hey, trust me, if you've been at HYROX in LA or Anaheim, we bring the heat.
It's so cool to see the communities that come out. I agree. I would like something more in that direction. That's why we tried to do something like that in LA to test it out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of knowing how to pull the numbers accurately from the system and have that consistently across the board in each region. So one thing that the company is very big on is that they want to make sure that the way we do things is consistent across every country, right? And so if we start to do that kind of stuff in the US because we're bougie and we try and do things like this, right? And because we enjoy it.
I think it brings another level of competition, though.
It does, but I don't.
It does, but now we have to do that in every country.
Right.
And when you're talking about 12,000 athletes and over 500 affiliates in an area, much more difficult when it's somebody on the back end that has to do all that counting.
Yeah.
So
Again,
as it scales, it might not be necessary unless it becomes like automated and much easier. But there is definitely some combing through to make that happen. So until we can have it be something that's consistent across each country, it's probably not something that's going to come into fruition.
Do you guys use your own timing system to do all this stuff, or do you cycle out through that?
No, we use the same timing company every time.
You do?
Mhm.
Wow. Internationally and nationally, or just? Oh wow.
Yep.
Very cool.
Same equipment. Center Equipment is
Makes
now
it
our global equipment producer.
Oh, very cool.
So
Yeah, I've noticed that you've got the same partners that cross the board, like your sports photo and all that stuff. So that makes it a lot easier for country to country,
Yeah.
I assume.
Some of them do. However, not every country is supported by certain partners.
Right.
So like Powerlift is not in Canada. So we focus more on Red Bull for Canada.
Yeah.
Got it.
That kind of stuff.
Very cool.
all right, Crystal.
Yeah.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you
so much for having me today.
No, it was fun. And thank you for allowing me to just spitball stupid ideas.
Spiral.
You know,
mean?
I love ingenuity. I love
Yeah.
ideas. I think
Now that we have this conversation, I've been able to get those out. I'm going to come up with a bunch of different ones for Omar to listen to
Excellent.
that he can bring to you later on.
excellent.
Please help.
Because after this, she's don't put me on this podcast ever again.
No, I'm
okay to
happy.
talk to you, Omar, but not Jeff.
I'm done.
I'm always happy to hear suggestions.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much, Crystal, for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
This has been an international podcast transmission of No Fixed Agenda presented by Bubs Naturals. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast episodes. NFA, over and out.